First of all, I would like to thank Abrahamic Family House for this beautiful invitation. I've been looking forward to have a comparative study between SEE and SEA. Now, what is SEE? What is SEA is Southeast Europe and Southeast Asia, because beyond Southeast Europe, you don't have any more Muslim states or historically speaking, Muslim states. And what is beyond SEA, Southeast Asia, you don't have. Anthropologically, socially, we are different. But when it comes to certain common elements, we are able to find a lot of bridges. So my intention was to create the bridges between Southeast Europe and Southeast Asia from this peripheric perspective. So I will start with Quran, Hadith, the Prophet, and then I will go to the historical experience, to the history of Islamic civilization. You have the terminologies mentioned like justice, mercy, and ta'aruf. These three perceptions that are the key terminologies in the Quran with regard to the ontological foundations of coexistence in diversity, in intentional and purposeful, not accidental. Then we go to theological foundations of coexistence. We have three elements here. Unity of human origin that is mentioned in the Quranic verse, "O mankind, fear your Lord who created you from a single soul and created from its mate and dispersed from both of them many men and women." Surah Nisa 4:11. This verse grounds coexistence in the unity of human origin, And the second theological foundation of coexistence is around freedom of belief. There is no compulsion in religion. Everyone knows this. This is a very big motto in Islamic theology. Truth stands clear from error. Here we see that there is an important element of religious freedom. The third one is recognition of religious pluralism. Then we go to ethical and social dimensions. Again, there are three elements that are described in the Quran. The Quran combines of these two terms in Surah Al-Mumtahina, Surah 60, verse 8, where it focuses on righteous towards them and acting justly. So the morale here is the justice and goodness. The second one is dialogue and wisdom. In the dialogue and wisdom, we can see that the focus is وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. The previous part of the Quran says, try your best to call on through wisdom and use right and proper advices. And if the other part, it doesn't matter here, it doesn't say Muslim or non-Muslim, it is a universal element. If it doesn't work, try your best as it is, and the respectful communication. Try to create that respectful communication. The third one, prophetic example. Prophetic example is the Constitution of Medina that was drafted by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, embodied the Quranic principles of coexistence, establishing mutual rights and duties among the Muslims, Jews, and pagans. It transformed coexistence from moral command to political practice. Then we have application of contemporary context, application in contemporary context. We come to certain conclusions here. Cultivates mutual understanding across religions and cultures, affirming human dignity, karamat al-insan, as a sacred value, promotes justice and compassion as a universal ethics. Now, if you go back to this karamat al-insan, it is a very interesting term, Before yesterday, I was trying to explain in Riyadh, before Islam and after, there is a list of Quranic terminologies that God changed It is same term used before Islam, but when Islam came, Quran came, changed the meaning. Number of terms were meant horizontal, had horizontal meaning. But when Quran came, changed to vertical. For instance, karama or kareem, the term kareem in Arabic before Islam meant someone who is generous, isn't it, to the guest, to the duyuf, what they call it now. But when Islam came, changed this from the horizontal to vertical. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, said, you and God, changed from. And then you have the term kafir in the Quran, for instance. Kafir refers, before Islam was something different. The meaning of something that you covering and it changed into your relationship between you and God, So there are a number of concepts and terminologies in the Quran that we use as a concept today that is derived from in this context. So human dignity in this case is a religious thing, It is not something that, only me and you, horizontal way, but he is ordering me to act like that, So now we will quickly go to the Prophet Muhammad, because these details are so much here, the coexistence in the Sunnah with the Prophet. Prophet as an embodiment of coexistence. There is a very famous Quranic verse that is used a lot on Fridays, most of the time, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as a mercy to the world. It is very interesting if you study the Majaz al-Quran, why it is saying that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا. Why it doesn't say, we have sent you. Straightforward. Why do you have to put that illa there? But I am not going to, and that is very long theological, but it's a beauty of the Quran, defines things other way around, rather than to go directly touch your ear. So the Prophet Sunnah thus provides the practical model on how coexistence is lived and institutionalized. Then we go to fundamental prophetic teachings on coexistence. Again, we have here also some 4 points: human brotherhood and equality. You have the hadiths, This hadith was delivered by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ during his last sermon, last meeting with the public. Here, public is not, his last meeting was not only with Muslims, his last meeting was with all that were present there, And as we know that not all the Sahaba of the Prophet were Muslims. Then in farewell sermon, Prophet focuses on the element of dignity arises from righteousness, not race, not color, not tribe. This is very explicit in this sermon. Then you have freedom of religion and protection of non-Muslims. Both of them are mentioned here. This stern warning institutionalizes justice and protection towards non-Muslims and affirms the inviolability of human life as a principle of coexistence. Then you have mutual compassion and social solidarity. I will go fast on this. You can later on see this. And justice towards non-Muslims and the oppressed. Then you have Prophet's political and legal manifestation of coexistence, where you have the Constitution of Medina, Sahifat al-Medina, very famous. Then you have the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, how Prophet dealt with the treaty in the Hudaybiyah. Then you have the letters to the foreign rulers. This reflects the Prophet's inter-civilizational diplomacy, extending peace and respect even to non-Muslim emperors. Then you have ethical and social dimensions, mercy and compassion as a universal ethics. It is mentioned in the hadith there, which is considered basis of all coexistence. Then you have the issue of coexistence beyond humanity, environment and creation. In this particular hadiths, Prophet extended coexistence to animals, plants, and the environment, affirming that harmony with creation is part of the Islamic spirituality and civilization. Now we got from Quran and Hadith to historical accounts. From Constitution of Medina in early Islam, we have key features: recognized Muslims, Jews, and pagans as one of the community, ummatun wahida, while maintaining religious autonomy. And secondly, guaranteed freedom of religion, justice for all, and collective security. Third, established mutual defense, social responsibility, and peaceful dispute resolutions. Then we have the Ottoman Empire. Now, the Ottoman Empire, for the first time, you find the rule, the language of the state moved from Arabic into other than Arabic. Ottomans were, became a kind of like Jihan or Shumul state, kind of like they became the most powerful state in the world of Euro-Asian world, So you do expect a lot of changes and the language, So Ottoman state perfected the model of coexistence through a formal legal structure known as the millet system. The millet system recognized multi-religious communities, Muslim, Greeks, Orthodox, Armenian, Jewish, each with their own legal autonomy in personal and religious matters. Secondly, non-Muslims served in trade, medicine, diplomacy, and even politics. To summarize coexistence on the soul of Islamic civilization, we have 4 elements that we find in Islamic history and civilization. Tawheed, unity of God and creation. Tawheed, here it is referring to all religious thing. And adl, justice, rahmah, compassion, and ta'aruf, mutual recognition. What Muslims, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, and later on they developed this idea, maqasid al-sharia. I don't like to use the way how the modernists, they are using the term maqasid al-sharia. I go back to Imam Ghazali, he said he has 5 elements, hifd al-din, hifd al-nafs, hifd al-aql, hifd al-nasl, hifd al-mal. Preservation of religion and preservation of life, intellect, lineage, and property. This is a very nice professor. He's Turkish. He taught me Islamic economic thought and poverty alleviation in the Muslim world. He says that preservation of religion is not the duty of individuals only, but it is duty of the state. Not only individual, not only in one street. So he converts all these elements with a very beautiful explanation here. His article, I think, won the best research. So these 5 elements are a very beautiful framework, but we can use for many things to interpret our own history. Don't forget, judge in Ottoman period was not judge in the today's sense that we understand. Judge, qadi, was administrator, municipal administrator, chief, they call, mayor of the city, mayor of the district, So he was dealing with all the documents and communications. Any sultan or governor who was writing to qadi, it was not only between qadi's writings or qadi judging. There were letters received from Ottoman Sultan, from the other governors, and it is beautifully, coexistence was very serious matter, and they have been taken into consideration highly. So some people. My question was to Professor Attaz also. I asked this question long years ago. I said, how could Southeast Asians, which are a little bit far in comparison, you have India in the middle, and then you have Southeast Asia, and Islam did not go to Southeast Asia recently. It goes back to the Uthman ibn Affan, because trade roads, people, but it started. But massive conversion was not horizontal, was vertical. How could, in the Southeast Europe, people from Southeast Europe, they did not enter to Islam? Greeks, no. Bulgarians did not. Romanians did not. Serbians did not, But it is interesting, Albanians, majority entered to Islam. Here, the issue was Islam reached to the Balkans from the horizontal perspective trader was meeting man, from their attitude, and the religion passed, But in Southeast Asia was because of their ruling class. They had Nakhota, they had all these leaders, So the Islam reached to their leadership. They are sultans. Sultan later on, even the term sultan entered into their language because of after accepting Islam and accepting Arabic language in the sense of conceptual terminologies. Conceptual terminologies. Yesterday, someone asked me in Saudi Arabia about the difference between, in Malay language, between dose and ma'asiyat. Dose is daily mistakes. If you do a mistake, you threw something, to the street, that one is generally cultural wrongdoing, So dose is taken from the Sanskrit, But ma'asiyah, it has to do with God. Anything that is related to God wrongdoings is called ma'asiyat. Even it's so they accepted Islam from the top to the bottom, rather than horizontal way. There are some studies recently, that they are trying to focus on not only rewriting but extracting from the from Sahifat al-Medina, and in fact, it has influenced number of European institutions in this respect, Especially that was the main reason why Muhammad Hamidullah focused on this and did an extensive research. And it was, to my knowledge, it's not written, but my knowledge, it was funded by French government on this, Individual, fard, in our civilization is based on first individually. You train in individual. You don't go for big crowd in order to teach all these things. You train individually. And these individuals can come together if they understand clearly the picture, So we have to start from individual perspective rather than from a group. If we start from the group, or we become a public speakers all the time, 5,000 listeners, it will turn into a concert rather than concept. So concept will turn into a concert, and it will not have a proper effect, And we hope that universities reduce their numbers in the classes. Instead of having 100 students in one classroom, perhaps to have 15 students, where you can, 15 is like an individual. You can still train the student, Otherwise, it will be chaotic. You will not have proper development in reviving our traditional institutions and practices today. In this talking that Dr. Mohammed mentioned, let's say Europe was introduced through two peninsulas. Islam was introduced to Europe through two peninsulas, Iberian Peninsula and Balkan Peninsula. After 600-700 years later, Iberian Peninsula, which is Andalus, centered. Today we have only architectural wise to see things, where we can go and take very nice, beautiful selfies, but ontologically speaking, the Muslims are non-existent almost there because of the Reconquista in late 15th century, what happened, And then you have the Balkans that experience almost 750 years of Islam, and ontologically and physically, you have indigenous Muslims, as he mentioned, existing in the Balkans. And we did a very nice, Professor Joe, trip. Dr. Mohammed remembers at that time we were in Sarajevo working in Bosnia. During the August, most of the Khalij and Saudi Arabia people, they try to go to green areas, and cool places. So what we did, we seized the opportunity. Perhaps this Abrahamic family house can seize this also as a trip to have trip outside, not only coming to see this place, but our people to go and see outside. So we introduced something, the Islamic art and architecture in the Balkans. And we brought Khalij countries, students and government servants for 21 days trip. entering from capital of Bulgaria, Sofia, exiting from Zagreb of Croatia. And they were amazed. We have a lot of interesting, unique stuff that you don't have it in the Muslim world. Balkans have it. Art, women build mosques, and they did very fascinating job, you know. They call it Alaja Mosque. Alaja means colorful. And if you look at they used the techniques of painting the mosque with the beautiful flowers using eggs, because eggs you can wash and it doesn't go off, you know. 30,000 eggs to paint the mosque, you know. In the past, it was not like that during the Ottomans. All intermingling. My neighbor was Jewish, the other, but I guess this historically after 1980s, 90s, you know, these issues, you know, people start, but they miss us. We miss them too. In this bridge, in the middle of the bridge, there was a mihrab. I guess most of you know what is mihrab. In the mosque, where this mihrab attracted me since the childhood. I will pass from the bridge, from Stone Bridge, and I will contemplate as a child. What in the hell is this mihrab doing here? And there were some Arabic letters written. Later on, when I grew up, you know, after 20s or something, and then I said, you know, I have to do some kind of research, you know. And I realized that Ottomans now coexistence, isn't it? You ask about the war, you know. Ottomans, when they entered, or Islam, when Islam entered to the Balkans, they did not immediately construct mosque. They did not impose that. They did not convert the church or monasteries into mosque. What they built for the traders, they realized that this bridge is perfect sample, is built by Justinian, and they added mihrab in the middle to show the Qibla. So anyone who is passing from there will look at the mihrab, will know the Qibla, because not everyone has compass or something, you know. I took a compass because thank God now we have mobile phones that we can check. And I checked most of these bridges, this mihrab. Of course, it's not 100% showing the Qibla, but all of them were somehow showing the Qibla. It's a beautiful thing, you know that. Thank you. No, I hope I did not prolong your time because start giving signal. Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.